Hey guys, KJ from Rakurai Network here with a controversial new video to kick off the week. In Dragon Ball's long history, there have been certain things that have happened in Dragon Ball that were kind of unexplained to some degree. If you know me well enough, you'll know that I personally don't mind ambiguity, as some stories actually rely on it. Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man, for instance, never gives the name of the protagonist. Is that necessarily a bad thing, however, if the point of the given text goes far beyond the details that it's ambiguous about? Ambiguity is defined as the quality of being open to more than one interpretation or inexactness. This happens in Dragon Ball a lot by this definition. For example, Goku giving Cell a senzu bean before fighting Gohan is considered a bad move on his part, but it's possibly a bit ambiguous, and it's not just the fact that he wanted the fight to be fair. One could say that he did it so that Gohan would be pushed even further to attain his highest level of power. However, some people pin that as a headcanon. Since there are no official definitions, I define headcanon as a potential personal explanation for an inexplicable or dubious occurrence in a series, albeit a book, movie, or television series. Now, headcanons have a really bad reputation in the Dragon Ball community, and it's not necessarily difficult to understand why. Headcanons are a powerful thing and can effectively change one's entire interpretation of an arc. Notice, however, that the definition that I've given, and honestly no definition I've found, depicts headcanon with a negative connotation. This negative connotation is given from the fanbase, honestly. In my opinion, headcanon is something that should be welcomed. I feel as though headcanon is no different from giving your interpretation of a story in an English literature class, as the two terms are essentially synonymous. Why is there so much of a negative aura around it then? Well, my theory is going to make a lot of people angry, but just remember, this is all just an opinion that I'm giving here. It's my belief that it comes down to something I'd call selective headcanon acceptance. Aside from Goku wanting Cell and Gohan to have a good fight, there was no explicit reason for exactly why he gave Cell a senzu. However, most Dragon Ball fans accept the headcanon theory that it was so that Gohan would be forced to access Super Saiyan 2, or some level of power greater than a Super Saiyan. However, with that being said, why is a headcanon that states that Super Saiyan rage is simply the manifestation of all of one's anger, hope, and subdued energy suddenly a bad thing? Saying that the series gives no clues and no hints is something that always gives me a problem anytime it's said in the fandom. English classes revolve purely around reading a selected text and giving interpretations of said text. Literature exams revolve around what could be called making something out of nothing. So while I can respect the idea of death of an author, which is basically saying that nothing outside of the story should be considered viable information for the story, as I just found out the other day, for example, it's a concept that I simply can't agree with. Edgar Allan Poe's The Mask of the Red Death seems to simply be a story about Prince Prospero trying to escape a plague called the Red Death. But think about some context here. Many people in Poe's family, including his wife, died of tuberculosis. You know, that thing where you cough up blood? Yeah, that. Bearing that in mind, every poem and story in which he mentions the Red Death or something similar to it has an entirely new meaning. The very thought that a quote-unquote literary rule should constrict my way of thinking about Poe's work is ridiculous to me. And the same point stands with Dragon Ball. I don't think there's anything wrong with being against headcanons per se, or that there's anything wrong with thinking that the story itself should explain everything. And also, one definitely shouldn't go around and spread headcanons as facts. However, what I do have issues with is when I bring a well-thought-out explanation for an occurrence in Dragon Ball Super, for example, and it's simply pinned as a useless headcanon, and that is not viable in an argument. Bear in mind, however, there is a limit to this. If my headcanon was that Mr. Popo was the primary antagonist of Dragon Ball that was brainwashed to do Kami's bidding, let's just say that wouldn't go too well. However, if there is something that occurs with implications, which basically is meaning something that is read between the lines, then I find it almost offensive that I shouldn't be allowed to do so, or that my explanations have less merit in comparison to someone saying, "This doesn't make sense, I hate Dragon Ball Super and I hate everything." It's fine to follow these literary rules and analysis. I'm not saying to stop it all, it's just a different way of thinking. My whole point, however, is that writing is a form of creative expression, and its analysis should not be bound by rules aside from grammatical ones, obviously. While the people that write these rules are respected names in the writing community, a community that I hope to be in soon, these rules are just ones given by human beings just like you and I. Having been published myself and with more coming in the future, I love analyzing literature and I love analyzing Dragon Ball. However, analysis shouldn't be limited because of the rules made by a respected author. English is my favorite subject, but I feel that many people hate it because it's either too limiting or too restricting to people's thinking. Bottom line, I feel that rather than crying about already spilled milk and stating the obvious fact that it's spilled, you should get a napkin or paper towel and at least try to clean it up in a well thought out way that suits you. But that's just my opinion on it. Let me know how you feel about headcanons and symbolism in the comment section below, and just remember again that this entire thing is purely based on my opinions, and I mean no offense to any respected literary analysis professionals and those who strongly believe their words, as I have tons of respect for these individuals as well. Remember to like the video, share it out with people who you know and people who you may not know but just want to harass with my videos, in which case thank you, and please subscribe to the channel if you're new. With that being said, I hope you all have an amazing day. Do not let anyone change who you are, and God bless you guys. Peace out.